What is up, 208 family? Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. We've got lots and lots and lots and lots of news to talk about. We got our wide receiver rankings, and we also have to talk about why you should eat your eggs runny. They're not meant to be fully cooked. Let's get started right now. Gentlemen,
Matt,
eggs are
I
meant
don't
to be
know.
eaten runny. I'm sorry. They're runny eggs. Yes,
chicken
it's
odor,
true.
you're wrong.
I don't know what's
wrong.
worse.
No,
I don't know what's worse, your pre-pod takes or your wide receiver rankings in this episode. Oh man.
No, hey, you know what? Hey, we're gonna. I will convince you one way or the other
I like
after
it.
the end of the show.
Bring me the heat today.
All right. Hey, well, let's take no time like the present. Let's jump right into it. Let's get in because there's a lot of it. Let's get into the news.
What's going on?
Thanks everybody for joining. Chance has got our news. Hey, before we hit the news, let's get the subscribe and like button. Man, tune in with us. We love having you. Chance, let's tee us off. What do you got? There's a lot.
All right, so we talked about this when we finished our Sunday night episode. We'll blow through news. There won't be a lot to start the week on Tuesday. We were wrong. So I think biggest news fantasy wise is the Ayuk stuff finally coming to a head. So currently, the Niners, they had a trade set up with the Pittsburgh Steelers, but also a contract extension out to Ayuk. Currently, the Niners and Ayuk are not far apart in contract extension talks. So that's why they haven't traded him to Ayuk yet. That's per Mike Garafolo. So it sounds like Ayuk, after all that fun, is just going to stay with the Niners like he should. So,
Justin, you're shaking your head. No, you don't think so?
I think he's gonna get traded. The rumor that I heard, they were trying to get Mika Fitzpatrick, which would be nuts in that defense because Mika's probably one of the best safeties. There's all these reports like, hey, they've agreed to a trade. Now they're just waiting on the 49ers to accept, or what Chance said, they have this contract that worked out. I don't know. Like, I think either way, it's gonna be bad for Ayuk. So.
Well, I am off the Ayuk train. I don't want to. It's like watching a soap opera. I can't stand it anymore. Here's what's going to happen. He's going to go one way or the other and stay. He's going to be terrible. And then it's going to be, I told you so. So I could be wrong, but I'm just so tired of hearing about Ayuk, man. It's just a ton of news. Pick a place and go.
I hope he stays with the Niners. I'm Team Niners camp.
He's Team George Pickens. Don't get it twisted.
Hey. I'll buy that Ayuk dip, man. He's going to dip in ADP, and I'm going to buy it up. Buy the dip, baby. So Hollywood Brown injury, his AC joint injury, the timeline for that came out. He's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. So he's going to miss the first little bit of the regular season. So in conjunction with that, there are a lot of people reporting that Rashee Rice, because this is a wide receiver pod, that Rashee Rice is likely to not face a suspension to start the season. So Rashee Rice should be good to go week 1, just to go along with your Hollywood news. Much to Lineberry's fear, Jahmyr Gibbs was injured in practice. He had a hamstring injury. It's just it's a hamstring strain, not a hamstring tear. So I don't know. It makes me super nervous for Gibbs. I mean, like, he's a Lamborghini. The dude is a Lamborghini, and he's going to play all but 2 games inside on turf. And I think that hamstring has the chance to bug him.
Yeah, soft tissue stuff with fast guys is, I'd rather them just break their leg, to be honest, because it just feels like it's so naggy and you can't fix it. Like, man, soft tissue's scary.
What's scary to you guys? The hamstring for Gibbs or the calf for McCaffrey?
That's tough. I'm going to say the calf.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with
Everything is so there. The calf is nasty.
And McCaffrey's the number 1 guy, and he's the number 1 pick. So, I mean, that's the thing. Like, you pick him at 1, like, that's his ceiling. So if he finishes 2, like, you picked a bad player. So it's like, yeah, they're both tough.
They're both tough. Also in news, JJ McCarthy tore his meniscus. He's getting surgery. he's going to be out for a good little while. So Sam Darnold is your Minnesota Vikings starting quarterback. Let's go, Sam Darnold, baby.
Oh, you know, people in Dynasty and Superflex are just going crazy trying to trade for him right now. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And listen, we'll talk about this when we get into wide receiver rankings. I think this is a boon to Justin Jefferson. We'll get to that. I think Justin Jefferson, whatever dip he's also had because of the fear of a rookie quarterback, buy that dip, baby. Sam's going to get him the ball. Lastly, just in other news, Tyrone Tracy, who I've been on the Tyrone Tracy bandwagon for a minute. I've been a big fan of his. It was cool because multiple pods that I listened to on Monday, right after the preseason games, were like, "Oh, you know who looked really good? Preseason week 1 winner, Tyrone Tracy." Like, he popped up on all these pods. Yeah, and then they talk about him. He went down. Non-contact injury. They put an air cast on his leg and they carted him off, and it sounded real bad. Reports are that it's a low ankle sprain. So he must just be real wimpy. He must just not deal with pain well if you got to get carted off for a low ankle sprain. But
it seems like, even, I don't know, just watching the Falcons games, it feels like they're air casting any type of ankle sprains, because our starting safety had a high ankle sprain. They air cast him. I was like, oh, he broke his foot. Because air cast is such it's such a scary thing to see a good player be put in an air cast. Like, it seems like such a crazy situation, but it just seems like the NFL is going so much more precautionary with injuries, like with the guardian caps and like the air cast seem more prominent. So like anytime you hear non-contact air cast, you're like, oh, he's done.
He's done.
I think that's worth a little bit of research on our end, why that is. I know it's super precautionary. I'm going to dive into that a little bit more of kind of why the NFL is doing that. Kind of reach out to a couple of maybe of our sports trainers and what they know. Maybe there's some new studies around of like, look, the best case scenario, nothing's broke, but just stabilize it, and we'll figure it out later.
Yep.
So you see that with trauma stuff, yeah.
Yeah, immediate pressure to reduce inflammation immediately could be part of that as well. So that's what I got news wise. I'm sure we're gonna get. I mean, joint practices are ramping up. You know, with joint practices, we're gonna get more live contact, more one-on-one stuff. I think the injuries are just starting to heat up.
Yep. We will continue to monitor the Ayuk thing. We will monitor the CD Lamb stuff and all the contracts and stuff that's going on, at least the holdouts. So stay tuned. Let's jump right into the meat and potatoes of our show, gentlemen. It's our wide receiver ranking. Let's go. Wide receivers, our prima donna wide receivers. Everybody wants more money. Everybody wants the ball. Everybody wants to win games. Let me open this up. I want to start at the bottom a little bit with our bonuses so we can kind of get into it. But so we're going to work backwards here a little bit. Our bonus guys, so guys that didn't make our rankings, but we certainly want to talk about them. And those guys are McLaurin,
Deontay
Rice, and Deontay Johnson. Thank you.
Yeah.
So let's talk about those three real quick, why we wanted them on bonus. And I think we kind of hit on our rankings, but Chance, talk to me about Rice a little bit. Why you like Rice in this now bonus? Because we just briefly spoke on him.
Yeah, I just think, especially with the Hollywood Brown injury and with Rice appearing to not face any suspensions to start the season, like, there is no way that the number one wide receiver on Patrick Mahomes' Chiefs team is not going to be immediately and drastically fantasy relevant. And it's hard to find a spot to slot him in, but I just think that he is going to, I mean, there's no way that he's not fantasy relevant. There's no way he doesn't pick up right where he left off if he's not suspended. So I think Lineberry and I both had him ranked at the bottom of our rankings, but he didn't quite make the cut with who he had. So I think he's a steal in the 8th round.
Yeah. So and he's right now at 36 wide receiver and going in at like 81, right? 81. Overall. So look, he's been getting a bad rap all off season, and they're like, no. And now you've got this Hollywood Brown injury, and where we know he's not going to get suspended. As we start doing our drafts, he is a good late round pick, because later as the season, or as we get closer to the start of the season, his ADP is going to climb. It wouldn't surprise me if he jumps up to, wide receiver from 36, 10 spots to 25 easily. So just keep that in mind.
He should be going substantially higher. And like I think we talked about a little bit with tight ends, like they don't like Houston Kelsey in the regular season. Like see how Rasheed Rice like finished the season, like 24 points, 14, 18, 24, 11, 17. That is a very good end of the season. It sounded like it started clicking. Like a lot of people were off him because of the suspension. Usually the NFL tries to hand that down before the preseason starts. The same can be said with Jordan Addison. Like nothing has happened to either of them, so expect them to play with that suspension coming next year.
I'll leave it off with this before the next one. But if you end up with Mahomes, this is a pretty easy stack. Never force a stack, but this one could be an easy stack. Justin, I want to move over to I'm going to jump Deontay Johnson here, but I want to go Scary Terry and why he made our pick here as a bonus guy.
So Scary Terry feels a lot like DJ Moore a little bit. It seems like he's always been a super consistent guy, has played with so many different quarterbacks. I think the last 6 years, the Commanders have opened up with a different quarterback. And I think Jayden Daniels should be the best out of all of them and he already has a legit threat with Terry. I think it's going to be hard for him to finish top 24. He probably has one of the better chances just because he finally gets somebody that can match his talent, but he's been always so consistent as a wide receiver. I think he's a really good value this year. I think he should blow up with Jayden Daniels.
Yep, and again, he's wide receiver 32, 77 overall. He's going in that range where like Keenan Allen, Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, Chris Godwin. So again, great value. I would take him over that group for sure. Chance, anything to add to Scary Terry?
Now, I just want to see him with a really competent quarterback. I mean, he was so good at Ohio State. I mean, they have been wide receiver U to me for the last bunch of years. I think they're better than LSU at producing wide receivers, and I just want to see him be good with a quarterback that gets him the ball. I love Scary Terry.
Perfect. All right, so Deontay Johnson is our final third bonus guy. Who is going? He's 37 ranked wide receiver, going 88 overall, right? So Justin, I know you were high on this offense, and there's some good reports coming out of camp. What do you know?
So I just think Dave Canales is a guy. I just think he's a really good play caller. Like look at Gino with him, which was 2 years ago, and look what he is without him. Look what Baker was with 1 year with him in a new offense, and then I think the Bucs are going to take a step back. We'll see how Cohen does. I am buying the Bryce Young hype. I don't think him being in Alabama is a thing. I think he can be a competent quarterback. Deontay Johnson should take over the Adam Thielen role, and everybody knows Adam Thielen last year. Holy crap. It felt like he was getting like 70 targets a game. Like they were for 5 yards, but if you're playing full PPR or half PPR, like, whoo, he should get peppered with targets in this offense. And I think Canales is going to make it as easy as possible to make those throws easy for Bryce. And that's why I think Matt is so high on Jonathan Brooks, where he could take over the Rachaad White role later on. But Deontay Johnson should be the one in this. Like, Terrence Marshall is a forgotten guy. They had another guy a couple of years ago that is forgotten. Xavier Legette could be something. Adam Thielen could be something. But I think Deontay Johnson leads this room.
Yep. So just remember, when you're drafting, right, you want those number one wide receivers on your team, and Deontay Johnson's that guy. Let's jump right into our rankings. So we're going to start off with 24, T. Higgins, jumps onto our list. Kind of, we were off and on. Some people liked him, some people didn't. He made our 24. He was in a contract kind of dispute. I think he signed his 1 year contract. Chance, what do you know about Higgins? Why do we like him inside the top 24?
I just think if you look at our rankings, and as we get to guys, we have quite a few wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 in our rankings, right? We have the Dolphins 1 and 2 with Hill and Waddle. We have the Browns 1 and 2 with the Browns. We have the Eagles 1 and 2 with AJ Brown and Devonta Smith. We have Texans 1 and 2 with Nico and Tank Dell. I think that Joe Burrow is a better quarterback than Tua, a better quarterback than Stroud, and a better quarterback than Hurts. As a pocket passer, I think he's a better quarterback. So we're putting these other guys wide receiver 1 and 2 in our top 24, and I think we're just leaving Higgins out. I think because of what went on with his contract stuff, he's a forgettable guy, but he's a guy who's going to eat, I think, if Joe Burrow is back and back the way he's been.
Yeah, Justin?
I'll just keep mine short. Like, he feels a little bit like Mike Evans. Like, he's always going to get 1,000 yards and like 6 to 7 touchdowns. Very consistent. I don't think he'll ever have that huge touchdown upside, especially with Jamar Chase on the other side. But at top 24, I think he's a good pick.
Yeah. And we are a little bit higher than what Fantasy Pros has. And again, they use a multitude of different like ESPN, Sleeper, NFL, that type of stuff to get their ranking. And they have him at 27, and we have him just in our 24 spot. So Amari Cooper is our next one at 23. Amari Cooper's interesting. And Justin's not a big fan of Deshaun Watson, but yet we have him inside our top 24, Justin. Why we got Amari Cooper if we don't like Watson here?
Crappy quarterbacks got to throw wide receivers the ball. That's my justification. Like, they throw the ball 500 times. I don't think – I really hope Jameis Winston – it's almost like Chad said with Sam Darnold taking over. I feel like Amari Cooper value would go with Jameis Winston throwing the ball because I think Deshaun Watson's awful. But someone's got to throw the ball in this offense. Amari Cooper's been super consistent. So.
Yeah, and every year we forget about him. Every single year we forget about him, and every year he's consistent. So moving on to DJ Moore. Chance, I'm going to put you on this one. So this offense, we don't know.
Oh,
I know. We don't know what this Bears offense is yet, but we do have DJ Moore a little bit higher, and I know you didn't rank him in your top 24.
You're going to ask me to talk about a guy that I did not rank in the top 24, and that's fair.
I'm going to ask you why you did not. Why you did not rank him in your top 24.
So here's why I didn't rank DJ Moore in my top 24, and I think DJ Moore, like Terry McLaurin, is a great wide receiver, and we watched him struggle with bad QB play for a long time. Last year, he finally broke out. He wasn't super consistent. He had some really high games, and then he kind of disappeared for a while. But he's been a good wide receiver. It goes back to rookie wide receiver or rookie quarterbacks for me. And I think that Caleb Williams is a great player. I think you are very lucky as a Bears fan because I think Caleb Williams is going to be really good. But I just have a hard time seeing rookie quarterbacks getting the ball to their receivers that consistently. On top of that, for me, DJ Moore is also on a team with Keenan Allen, who is an absolute ball hog. He is such a great possession receiver. And have you seen the Rome Odunze clips from training camp? Rome Odunze looks like an absolute stud. He is balling out, and he's the 3. You're telling me that the rookie quarterback isn't going to have a connection with his rookie wide receiver that he came into the draft with? To me, when you add a rookie quarterback with a very large, I think the pie is really big, and the sections for each wide receiver are smaller than we think they're going to be. Not to mention Swift out of the backfield, Kmet, Gerald Everett. I just struggle to see DJ Moore finishing in the top 24. I could be totally wrong, but those factors for me bump him out of there when I think some other guys could be higher.
And Justin, you had DJ Moore a little bit higher. I think you had him at 17, which put him in basically, and I think I had him at 22, 21, something like that. Why a little bit higher than Chance? What do you see that Chance does not see in this Bears offense?
I think the biggest thing is, like, there's just not a lot of 1,300-yard receivers in the NFL. He had 8 touchdowns, 136 targets with a bad passer with Justin Fields. So I just think the talent's going to shine out. Rome Odunze does scare me more than Keenan Allen because I just think he's going to peak at the end because they're like, oh, this guy's 6'3", and he does both of those guys' jobs very well. So I don't know. I've been a DJ Moore fan since he came out of Maryland. Like, he's just a stud. He reminds me so much of Debo. Like, he just runs hard, and he's so elusive. I'm just like, he just balled out last year. So it's fun to watch him do that finally.
The last thing I'll say on this is don't reach for DJ Moore. Let him fall to you, right? If the later he falls, and he may fall in some drafts, you can get good value. Because I think there's a lot of people that think like Chance does, but he's still a good receiver. So keep that in mind. Don't reach for him. He's probably at the right spot in that 44 range in that 4th, 5th round. If he's there, feel free to grab him.
Okay.
Number
Matt,
20. Yes.
Matt, I'm going to ask you this question, okay? Because why don't you have Ayuk ranked in your top 24 wide receivers? Because you asked me
perfect.
about why I didn't have DJ Moore ranked. I'm going to turn it on you.
Perfect.
Why
Yes,
do you hate
absolutely.
Ayuk so much.
So here's the thing. Anytime I've seen a player hold out into this capacity of I want to go here, I want to go there, and he's holding out, he's not being part of the team. Christian McCaffrey already said he's not our teammate. He's not one of us. And now he wants to come back. He wants to do this. He wants to do that. I can't deal with that type of player. I want 0 shares of Ayuk. I don't want any part of it. It's kind of like you know what? I don't even want you on my team. So no matter where he goes, he might be decent. I just don't know if he's worth a top 24 pick to me. He's talented. I don't think he's uber talented. I think he's a little overrated in he's more of a system guy. But to me, there are other guys I'd rather have than Ayuk at this point. The one thing I would say, Chance, for you, is if he jumped right in that system and was all in for the 49ers, then absolutely I'd have him ranked. I'm having a hard time with him in my top 24.
In that system with Brock Purdy, he has never finished lower than wide receiver 15. Now that he's back, to me, that's his floor. He was 15 the first year Brock Purdy was in. He was wide receiver 14 last year. Like, I think he's an ascending player.
I won't go much further than that. Yeah, I mean, he very well could be. He very well could be. I just know historically the guys that hold out don't have a good season. Typically, they just don't. So, there's my answer.
Chance, tell us about your boy.
Dude, Tank
Dell.
Tell
us about your boy.
Okay. Tank Dell, I'm a big fan of Tank Dell, and I think a lot of this, and I don't want to belabor our rankings because we got a lot of guys to rank, but I've been on Tank Dell for a while. I'm a big fan of his, and I think not only do you see, we've talked about his connection with CJ Stroud, how much CJ Stroud loves him, and I know that we have his teammate Nico Collins ranked higher than Tank, but even in the preseason, like Tank Dell scored a touchdown from CJ Stroud. Like CJ Stroud just looks for him. He's fast. He's a smaller wide receiver that you don't think is going to work in the NFL, but he's just beloved by his quarterback. To me, he's a good wide receiver, and I think he's just going to keep eating. He's going to get hyper targeted by Stroud.
And I think, so Chance, to your point, so Dell is ranked 29, the wide receiver, 64. We know Stroud loves Dell. He just right there, he said draft that guy. So I agree with you. I think this is great value. Again, we have him higher ranked than what the consensus does. So if you can get him at a lower price, by all means, go get him. And he very well might not be the wide receiver one, but for sure, reach out and get him. Justin, we're going to jump right into Waddle because this is one of the guys you are super high on at 19. What's going on with Waddle? He has historically been a little bit shaky, but why do we have him ranked at 19?
All right, so let's talk about Waddle, why I'm such a big fan of him. I feel like him and Devonta Smith are very similar players to me. So he's such a great player. I feel like he's gotten forgotten a little bit because of the injuries and the Dolphins, how they finished really bad. So in 2021, he had 104 catches, 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns. And his sophomore season, he had 75 catches for 1,300 yards and 8 touchdowns. That is nuts. And like he had 117 targets, so he almost had 30 targets less than he did the year before. Last year he missed 3 games, still had 72 catches, 1,000 yards, so consistent, but he only had 4 touchdowns. So it's just kind of tough. I still think he's a valuable option. I think he finished as a top 8 wide receiver in his second year when he was fully healthy, and top 13 as a rookie. And I just feel like last year was such an outlier, finishing at 34 overall just due to injuries, how they finished. It felt like so up and down. But, man, him and Waddle just eat people up. They put up crazy YAP numbers, crazy TD numbers. The Dolphins are going to want to throw the ball. I just think he's a crazy bargain. I mean, he's overall 35, wide receiver 18. Just a really good bargain. There's 3 of them there bargain-wise. One of them is Chance's guy, DK, and then Cooper Kupp. They're all put together. Any 3 of those guys I would love to have on my team.
Yep. So before we get into our next, or the rest of our ranking, hey, be sure to subscribe. Be sure to hit that like button. If you're watching live, leave a comment. We want to hear your thoughts too. Think when we're crazy, think we're doing good. Let us know. I think it's fantastic. We want this interactive. So moving on to our top 18. Here they are, and we're going to talk about them. Some of them may be a head scratcher. Some of them like, no, this makes sense. Well, let's get into it. Devontae Smith. I think we all like Devontae Smith. Justin, you might be the highest more than anybody. Maybe I was a little bit higher, but I think we like the Kellen Moore offense. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, he fits it perfectly, playing that slot role. I mean, I think we loved him since Shades came on the pod, and I think he's going to do really well in this offense.
Yep, Kellen Moore loves the slot guy for sure. And rumor has it he's having his best training camp of his career. So we will see. Moving on to 17, Mr. Olave. In that shaky offense, we have him pretty high. Chance, thoughts on Mr. Olave?
Listen, I will tell you, Chris Olave, I'm a huge fan of his. And I think, I like to compare Chris Olave to Garrett Wilson, who came out the same year. Chris Olave has more receptions than Garrett Wilson has. Okay. I'm pretty sure I heard it say he has more receiving yards than Garrett Wilson has over the 2 years that they've been out. And we hype up Garrett Wilson so hard. And I understand it's a quarterback conversation, but Chris Olave is just steady Eddie, man. I think that he is going to continue to just be this team's number one. And I think he ranked 19 last year. I think that is his floor. I think he's just going to continue to blow up.
So I do want to bring out, so he's wide receiver 11 and he's overall 22. Is that too rich for you at that 22 mark in kind of the second round? Would you rather have him later? Our rankings, it looks like we want him later.
I would say I would not want him as my wide receiver 1. That's my thing. If he can drop and I get him as my wide receiver 2, maybe I take a round 1 guy and he's my round 2 guy. I go 0 RB, or if he falls to the 3rd, I'll snatch him up.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted everybody to understand is we love him, but we got to get him at the right value. Second round value is too rich for us. Keep that in mind. Moving on to Mr. Cooper Kupp. Man, it is Coop. What are we doing with Cooper? We have him at 16. Lineberry, tell me what our thoughts are. What are we doing with him?
I just think people forgot. I feel like we talked about Cooper Kupp a couple times, but let's not forget, Triple Crown winner, Stafford's best friend. He is such a bargain right now. We were talking pre-show about this. If my 2 wide receivers I in and out of the draft was Cooper Kupp or a Jalen Waddle or DK and Rashee Rice as my 1 and 2, I'm ecstatic. I just love Cooper Kupp this year. He's a steal.
Yes, and again, he is 18 wide receiver, overall 37. And remember, when Cooper Kupp was out there with Puka, he was taking volume away from Puka. It wasn't until Coop went down before Puka really kicked in. And Cooper Kupp has been healthy. We mentioned this in another podcast. He's been very healthy. So keep an eye out. And we're going to talk about Puka here in a minute. But good value. Go get him if he's lasting in the 3rd round. So.
Listen, I need you, Matt. I need you to talk about Devontae Adams. You cannot ask me to talk about a Raiders player on this podcast.
Okay, I can do. I can do
Devontae
that.
Adams is all yours, please.
So we have him at 15. I'll be honest, that's too high for me. I think when you guys had him a little bit higher, I know he's an elite wide receiver. I'm just struggling with this offense. There's other guys that I like more. He is going 10, the wide receiver 10 overall, or wide receiver 10, 19 overall. And you can clearly see we have him at 15, wide receiver 15. So I'm not paying anywhere near that price for him at 19. That's second round value. Way too rich for my blood, although he's an elite wide receiver. You guys agree or disagree?
Yeah, I won't have any Devontae Adams shares. I've never even had a brief moment in the second round where I'm like, oh yeah, Devontae Adams shares. That just doesn't cross me. Maybe I'm playing a little dangerous, but there's just other wide receivers I'd rather have that I think have better upside. And that Raiders offense, I don't think is going to be very good.
No. He might get some garbage time because I think that offense is going to be behind, but I'm not taking him. He's got to fall much later. So Mr. Consistent, Mike Evans, we have at 14. Doesn't seem to matter who his quarterback is. It seems to just be 1,000-yard receivers by, I think it's 8 years in a row, something like that. That's what it feels like. So Chance, tell me, Evans, what are we doing with him?
I don't think we need to get too complicated with Mike Evans. Okay, 9 consecutive years of 1,000 yards And he's never finished below wide receiver 23. He's never not been at least a wide receiver 2 ever in fantasy, ever. He's got the same quarterback in Baker Mayfield again. I don't think it's complicated. He's going to get you 1,000 yards. He's going to get you at least 7 touchdowns, and he's going to be a great wide receiver. A great wide receiver 2 on your team at the very least. I would not be mad if he was my wide receiver 1 at all, because I know he's going to be consistent.
Yep, agreed. He is wide receiver 13. You can catch him in the 30th overall. So I still think that's good value in the right spot. I wouldn't reach for him any sooner than that, but if he falls later than that, go get him. So we just talked about Cooper Kupp. Now we're talking about the rookie-setting receiving record, Puka, and this combo. Now we do have him higher ranked than Cooper, obviously by 3 spots, but Puka is number 8, and he's 13th overall, which is just outside of the first round, and we have him much lower than 8. Justin, talk to us why we got Puka so much lower.
All right, so the Puka hate is it just feels like they swung the pendulum way too far. Like, I love Puka coming out of BYU, as tough as that is to say, because I hate BYU as a football school. Absolutely hate him. So, like, Puka's coming off nagging injuries. Like, anytime that you are in a draft and someone has a bum knee, hamstring, whatever, it is a huge risk to take them as your first round pick. He does play a very Devo-esque style where he's going to get hurt because he just plays hard football. Like, he blocks hard. Like, every aspect of his game is, I'm playing this as hard as I can. The ascension of Demarcus Robinson will be pretty interesting. They gave money to Colby Parkinson, which is really interesting. He's a tight end. He played at Stanford. I can't remember what pro team he played for because Taylor Higbee's going to be out. It'll be interesting to see how much they use the tight end in that offense. As well as I think they committed $80 million or so to the interior of their offensive line. So their 2 guards and then the investment in Corum. I think they're going to rely heavily on the run game. And again, Cooper Kupp missed 5 games. And like Matt already said, like, he took that number 1 spot when he came back. Expect more number 2 numbers from Puka just based on that situation.
Yeah, and I think he's come in a little bit lighter this year. Those yak yards were very big for him last year, but I think he's kind of coming in a little bit lighter so he can run those routes a little bit crisper, but we'll see. I just think don't overpay for Puka. I agree. No. So just be mindful. Not worth a end of first, early second. So I do want to throw something here for you, Justin. KP, one of our good friends and listeners. I'm going to throw this up on screen. He said, all I heard was Lineberry say, I would rather my wide receiver break his leg than pull a hamstring.
Yeah. Just the context of it, like, guys, remember, like, these athletes they're just well-oiled machines. Like, they're, like, it's so hard. Like, I feel like breaking a bone is like, hey, you're out 4 weeks, it's going to be repaired. Not like a stress fracture or anything like that, or a Jones fracture, but, like, it just feels like when someone, like, pulls a hamstring, it's like, okay, they pulled their hamstring in week 1, okay, they reactivate in week 3, 6, 9, like, it just never goes away. They never let them set him out. Like, I've seen Kadrick pull his hamstring, like, 3 times in a flag football game, so he should have tested this. I don't know if he's ever broken it, but, like, he's an old man. He's pulled stuff, and, like, he's done for the year, so.
There you go. All right, moving on to Nico Collins. So Nico is currently wide receiver 14, 31 overall, so you can get him right in that 2-3-ish rounds, end of 2, early 3. So understand, we know that Nico and you have Diggs is there, and oh my goodness,
Take Dell.
Yeah, Dell. All 3 are there. So we're looking at them. We're trying to figure out who's going to be what. We're not sure who is going to be who, but if you believe in CJ Stroud, then Nico has to be part of that thought process. And to us, the 6'4" receiver, he's just going to play that 1 role is probably where we live. Chance, talk to us about Nico and why we like him at 12.
Sorry, guys, a little technical difficulties there. You lost me. Listen, the fact that he's 6'4", 222, the dude is an absolute unit, right? I mean, there's a lot of wide receivers on this list that are victim weight, and we normally talk about that for quarterbacks or for running backs only. But Nico's just built different, and obviously him and CJ Stroud have a serious connection. to the tune of 1,200 yards last year, 8 touchdowns. I think with the addition of Diggs, that might go down just a little bit, but still, he is the alpha wide receiver in that on that team. And CJ Stroud, even if he takes a little sophomore slump, I think he's still going to find him as his guy.
Yep, I agree. Like, and one other thing to take into account, like, I think the biggest thing with the Texas wide receiver room, which I think might be the best in the league, is like Nico will never come off the field. Like, no matter the personnel, he's always going to be on it because he is such a different type of wide receiver than Diggs and Tank, because he's huge, like Chance says. Whether they're doing run plays or they're doing fades to the end zone, like, he's probably going to be the guy that catches the fade because he's 6'4". So like, he'll never come off the field, and like, that's always something you want. You want snaps played, you want routes ran. Like, those are important stats for your number wide receivers. I love Nico. He was such a revelation for my dynasty team.
Yeah, whether you believe in CJ Stroud or not, we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, somebody's got to catch the ball, and I think Nico might be the most consistent there. I do want to get into the next one, Drake London. Drake London is our current 12th wide receiver. Well,
oh my gosh.
Fantasy Pros 12 and 25th overall, so just outside the second round. And Justin, you being the Falcons guy, and you love London.
Real quick, for our listeners, for our listeners who are not watching us on YouTube, you missed the biggest shit-eating grin I've ever seen on somebody's face as we're talking about Drake London. Limeberry's just taking a victory lap already over there.
I love Drake London. Okay, so let's talk about Drake London since I did my research. So you insert Kirk Cousins, correct? So I just did research just with his 6 years with the Vikings. Okay, he is a wide receiver one maker. Okay, whatever you want to call talent wise. So you had Thielen, Diggs, and Jefferson. So Kirk has supported 6 top 12 wide receiver seasons and then 1 extra top 24. So one of those years he had a top 12 and a top 24, and then one of those years he had 2 top 12s. I think it was Jefferson and Thielen. Also, insert Zach Robinson. The highest usage of 3 wide receiver sets. We were the lowest last year, which is what Drake London is the best at and the most efficient at, is that personnel set. His target haul was 117 and 110 in his first 2 seasons, which is awesome. Play calling in the preseason. We saw the most mysterious play in preseason. It was a goal line fade to a wide receiver. It was crazy. I was like, what was that play? I have never seen it in the last 3 years with the Atlanta Falcons. Pitts and Drake London are calling for that ball, and I'm so excited. Let's just throw fade balls up to those 2 dudes. Contested catch monster. He's 6'4". He's just as big as Nico. Maybe not as thick, but they're the same size. Separates well. He's only had 6 total touchdowns in his career for 2 years. So he had 4 and 2, which is rough. So if he even had 6 total touchdowns in 1 year, I feel like his numbers are going to jump. He had 28 red zone targets. Again, that was coming from Marcus Mariota, Desmond Ridder, Taylor Heineke, which is rough. He's being drafted as the last wide receiver 19 overall. I think his upside is top 5 overall. I think he'll be a top 12 wide receiver. That's pretty easy. So
yeah, London was one of those guys that hasn't proven it yet, but everybody's anticipating it this year. That's why he's 12 over, wide receiver 12 and 25th, which is just outside that second round. I think that is the perfect spot for him. You can get him late second round, early third. I think that's a fantastic value. So I do want to move on to DK Metcalf. Now we have gone back and forth in our little chat here of what Seattle's offense is going to be, right? You got the high flying offense coming in from Washington. What are they going to be? But the O-line is horrible. We just don't know. I think they're going to be in a lot of shootouts. DK, now I believe Chance, I think he just disappeared. Justin, tell me let me start with you, why you dislike DK here at 10.
I don't know if I dislike it. Like, seeing Geno play last year scares the crap out of me. And I feel like McDonald has gassed up JSN a lot. I don't think it'll be anything, but I don't know. I just want to see it first. I'm probably going to be wrong and DK's going to be really good, but I just want to see what Grubbs is. Is he a JSN lover? Tyler Lockett always seems to get 1,000 yards. Are they going to be super run heavy? I don't know, but I don't really love this offense that much. I think they take a big step backwards with their O line and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yep, and I'm a little bit more the other way. And I can speak for Chance. That's why Chance has the trophy here. He likes him once on his team. So for context, that's why he's here. He is wide receiver 21, going 43 overall. That's a huge variation for us, right? That's 10 spots in the ranking from us to them. The reason why I like him, I think there's enough out there. This offense fits DK. It fits him to the T. There's some early on comparison to Penix and Geno in the way they
come on.
bear with me, in the way they throw the ball, they push it downfield. That's what Geno does. So it's just an old versus younger. So I didn't come up with that. It's just some comments that I read. So I thought that was interesting. I thought I'd bring up. But I like DK in this offense. Chance, you got the trophy next to him, so I want to make sure you get a chance to speak on your guy DK.
Listen, I've been high on DK. I know that the last couple of years, like he's experienced some touchdown regression, right? He had 6 touchdowns in 2022. He had 8 touchdowns last year. But before that, he was a double-digit touchdown guy. He is a red zone guy. And I agree that the addition of that Washington offense is just going to fit DK. He, to me, at 6'4", 235, he's going to be McDonald's. He's going to be the Roma Dunze in that offense, who is 6'3", 215. And I have him ranked really high, but I love him as a value. That's my biggest thing, is where I can get him. If I get him as my wide receiver 1, I really think that he has every opportunity to come back to being that absolute dynasty or fantasy darling that he was when he first came out those first couple years.
Perfect. I get DK. That's my opinion. You're getting tremendous value. I agree with Chance. Moving on to Debo. Now, I didn't like Ayuk, but I love Debo. Chance, tell us why you love Debo.
Ah, man. Debo is he's a man. He's such a stud. And I love Debo. And here's the thing that why Debo, I think, is going to be deserving of this ranking this year. He's one of the few wide receivers on this list that gets the ball in multiple ways. I mean, if it's not them throwing the ball to him, he's getting it out of the backfield. He's getting it. They just manufacture touches for him because he's such an absolute weapon when he's got the ball in his hands.
Yep, agreed. You're getting him at really, really good value. He is 15th ranked, 32nd overall, and I think really for us, he's a top 10 wide receiver, right? That's fantastic value. I don't trust Ayuk as far as I can throw him in that offense, although he's a good athlete. But now everything goes through Debo, right? Well, Debo's all bought in. He's their guy. They had an opportunity to trade Debo, and they didn't. So I think they go through him. Number 8 is Wilson. Love Garrett Wilson. This is my trophy guy. I want to give you some stats here real quick. So last year, he had 95 receptions, 168 targets for 1,000 yards and 3 touchdowns. He did that with what quarterback?
Hey, don't you slander Zach Wilson.
I will. Because he's on Chance's team now.
That's Denver's starting quarterback right there.
If Aaron Rodgers is even 70% of what he used to be, 80%, look, this guy's going to eat. They're going to get him the ball. I know Breece Hall is going to get his, but all it's going to do is just open up Wilson. I love him at 8. He is going I just had it here. He's 7, going 14th overall. I love it. I'm at the end of round 1. I can get Garrett Wilson in maybe a Gibbs, or I know he's injured, but or a back-to-back wide receiver, something like that. I love Wilson as my number 1. I'll take that all day long. Guys, agree? Disagree?
Listen, and I wanted to say something while you guys were talking about Drake London also. You guys are putting so much faith in 30-plus-year-old Achilles that are being repaired, okay? Like Drake London and Aaron Rodgers are both coming off of Achilles injuries. And I hope that they're okay. I'd love to see the Jets be competitive. I live in a household where the Falcons are highly loved as well, right? Like I got no hate for either of those teams, but those quarterbacks just make me nervous. And you can say all you want that Garrett Wilson is a great guy, like a great wide receiver. He was good in college. We're still waiting for the the Garrett Wilson breakout season, just like we're waiting for the Drake London breakout season. We haven't had that. So I love what they bring to the table as athletes and as wide receivers. And I say this with my foot in my mouth because Marvin Harrison Jr., who hasn't played a rep of NFL football, we have ranked ahead of him. But both of those guys, I'm just nervous about their quarterback situations. And so to me, their floor is lower. Maybe Garrett Wilson's even more so than Drake London's because the Falcons have a rookie in Penix who I think can get the ball around. But they scare me with their floors. And that's why I struggle to draft those guys because I drafted Garrett Wilson last year and he pooped on me. And it still hurts. Still hurts.
And I drafted him too, but it was the Aaron Rodgers thing. Mm-hmm. So those that are listening, following Chance or playing his leagues, understand he is not going to draft London or Wilson. And you can get him on your team and you can roll from there. There's your league winners. You got him.
I have league mates who listen to this, and they told me they're just going to draft my guys just to irritate me.
We should just have a sabotage show.
Let's talk about the rookie. Let's talk about the anointed one already. The golden wide receiver coming out of college with the pedigree, Marvin Harrison Jr. We do have him ranked as 7. He is currently 9 and 16 overall on our Friends with Fantasy Pros. So, Justin, Marvin Harrison Jr., what are your thoughts on that offense? Because I know we saw on the podcast earlier, you love Kyler Murray. Take it away.
I'm not going to say too much. You guys can talk about it because I talked about this Cardinals offense enough. This will be the only year you will be able to draft Marvin Harrison out of the top 5. Ever. That's all I feel.
Chance?
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's really hard. Marvin Harrison, the camp reports already are that he is leading that wide receiver room. He is coaching seasoned NFL wide receivers. His dad's a Hall of Famer. Like, he grew up around Peyton Manning. If any wide receiver knows the game, to me, it's Marvin Harrison Jr. He comes into a situation where he's immediately the number 1 with a quarterback that has a rocket of an arm, an offense that has all the opportunity in the world to score garbage points. They don't have a great defense. They're going to have to score. Marvin Harrison Jr. feels like, and he's the highest drafted rookie ever in redraft leagues, the highest drafted rookie wide receiver ever in redraft leagues. To me, it's going to be so hard to miss. Now, if he has 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns, that's a good rookie season. You're going to be disappointed with him. It's just hard to see a world where that's all he gets for me.
And that's fair. That's fair. I tend to agree with you guys. I want to pull back a little bit because I do feel like people are pushing him too far, right? I think by the time we get into the real drafts, he's going to be the first roundish. I don't want to get too far and have some temporary expectations a little bit, but he very well could be. Look, we've just watched the rookie receiver record being broke a couple times in a row, right? Chase, Puka. Could Marvin Harrison Jr. do it? Yeah, he certainly could. But just be mindful that the kid's outstanding. Go look at his college stuff. He was double teamed very often and still put up phenomenal stats. So we like him at 7. Get him at the end of the first round. Kind of like I said, end of first to second. Maybe you get Wilson and Marvin Harrison Jr. Not a bad setup to the end of draft being that 11-12 guy. So moving on to AJ Brown. We talked a little bit about Devontae Smith, and we've got him at 18. AJ Brown with that Kellen Moore offense. Justin, I'm going to go right back to you with the Kellen Moore stuff.
So with AJ Brown, I feel like he's the closest thing that we have in this league to Julio, who's my favorite receiver all time. He's just a bully. He's mean. He's a dog. Like, whatever you want to call it. I think Kellen Moore's offense is going to be substantially better just because they involve shifts. And shifts in the NFL are huge. Like, they just open up opportunities for wide receivers to get separation. They give the quarterback more feedback. Is it man? Is it zone? I think they're just going to match up nightmare with him and Devonta. I think it's going to be a scary offense. I would honestly take AJ Brown maybe before St. Brown and definitely before Jefferson. So.
Yep. I do want to talk about Kellen Moore just real briefly, just from some context here a little bit. So a lot of people remember from last year when he was with the Chargers and that offense was horrible. But I need you to go back what he did with Dallas, okay? And it's not when he was in Dallas, because he made that offense high flying and so on and so forth. It's the year he left, right? So what did Dallas do? All we heard from McCarthy was, we're going to run with Pollard and so on and so forth. He literally didn't run and use Kellen Moore's offense and was high flying all over the place. Take that same concept into this offense. Ooh, watch out now. You've got a stellar running back, a stellar offensive line, and those receivers with a potential top 1 quarterback. This offense is going to be high flying. Get as many pieces of it as you can.
Yep.
Next one is interesting. So Justin Jefferson, I want to talk about this because some news came out today.
Oh,
And Chance is excited.
Chance has got his stuff.
Justin Jefferson is number 4 overall, or 4 receiver. He's getting drafted as number 6. We know J.J. McCarthy's out, Sam Darnold's in, and we've got him in our top 5, one step lower than what our friends at Fantasy Pros has. Chance, take it away, man. Let us know what you thoughts.
To me, so I have been fading Justin Jefferson all offseason. I've been fading him since they drafted J.J. McCarthy, since they got rid of Cousins, because, again, it's really hard for rookie quarterbacks to come in and be C.J. Stroud, okay? It's hard for rookie quarterbacks to come and do that. And we know that Justin Jefferson can play well, and he's a wide receiver that feels really quarterback proof. Now, with JJ going down and Sam Darnold, who is a legitimate NFL quarterback, I'm not saying he's, a great quarterback, but I think Sam Darnold is a competent NFL quarterback. Justin Jefferson, since he came in the league, his finishes were wide receiver 5, wide receiver 4, wide receiver 1, and then last year with Cousins going out, a little bit rougher year, wide receiver 29. And I just think that the start of this season with Sam Darnold knows that in order to keep his job as a starting quarterback and fend off the rookie as long as he can, is going to be to target Justin Jefferson, who will catch every single ball he throws at him. So right now, it's just like so many of these other guys. I would buy the Justin Jefferson dip because I think he's going to start this season off in Justin Jefferson style, which is going to be balling out.
Justin?
So I just pulled up stats with when Justin Jefferson did play with Kirk Cousins last year. They played 4 games without each other because they both got hurt, right? Kevin O'Connell is a stud. He's gonna game plan him open. So he had 32 catches. Mind you, this is on 4 games. 32 catches for 476 yards. He's gonna get the ball. He had 10 targets almost every game without him, and that was with the migrate of different players he was playing with Mullins and Josh Dobbs. Like Chance said, he's pretty quarterback proof. Again, if you get anything from this episode, buy the dips in players where people are fading so far along. Chance has set the tone of the show. Buy those dips. Don't just wave off a player because of this or that. But if Jefferson goes in the second round, holy crap, that's a steal.
Oh, steal.
Yep. That's another one I was talking about. A Garrett Wilson, and you can get a Jefferson, right? On that back end, 1-2, it's perfect. The reason, so you're going to hear people talk about this, and this, I was with Chance. I was fading Jefferson. Not so much a Jefferson, it was the quarterback situation. They brought JJ in, they drafted him pretty high, and then they brought Darnold in, right? So there's some competition. And what I didn't want to see, because I think both those quarterbacks are capable, what I did not want to see is Jefferson or Darnold have a bad game, and then they panic and they put JJ in. And then JJ has a bad game, they go back to Darnold. That just absolutely kills Jefferson's value. So now that they're kind of limited to one guy, yes, buy the dip. You can almost tell your league mates, oh man, you heard about McCarthy, he's out. Now what are they going to do? Then people will fade Jefferson, and to Chance's point, you buy the dip, and Jefferson could be easily a top 3 to 6 wide receiver, if not 2 to 6. So keep that in mind. Moving on, Mr. Consistency, St. Brown, the Sun God. We love him on our show. This guy is a baller. He just seems to it's like he has no pain. He has no fear. He just keeps rolling. He plays through injury and everything. Justin, tell us about Sun God, who is currently 5 and 8 overall, and we have him at 4.
I don't have much to say. It's probably going to be one of the best offenses in the league. He's one of the most consistent wide receivers in the league. he is a staple in a lineup. He is such an easy start, and just forget about it that he's just gonna do well. So
If you're drafting that 7-8, pick him up. Chance, you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, 2022 he finished as wide receiver 8. 2023 he finished as wide receiver 3. Like, him and Goff have a connection. This offense is going to ball out. You're going to have 2 games all season where you might even have to worry about weather. I know I feel like I've said that a dozen times, but it matters, and it matters for wide receivers. It matters for high-flying offenses. He's going to be so consistent this year, barring injury. He's an easy lock to me to finish as a top 5 guy. He could be wide receiver 1. I don't think that's outside of the realm of possibility for him to be wide receiver 1 on the season.
Agreed. Speaking of wide receiver 1, last year's 1. Now we have him at 3, Mr. CeeDee Lamb. Justin, why do we have CeeDee Lamb at 3? What are we afraid of?
I just don't think it's ever happened where wide receiver 1 has finished wide receiver 1 year and the next year. It just doesn't happen. He's holding out, kind of the same Ayuk situation. I don't know. He scares me to death if you draft him that high. Again, like, I don't want to take him that high with that capital. He won me a championship last year, but man, him holding out is tough.
Chance?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I think he's going to be really good. He's one of the guys who, like, none of his situation has changed. He's still going to have Dak Prescott throwing the ball to him. He's still the one. Like, the situation has stayed the same team-wise, but just the Jerry Jones conversation and the drama where Jerry Jones is like, nah, we're not worried about it. And CeeDee Lamb's like, LOL. Like, it just doesn't give me good vibes. And to me, I would rather have in our top 4, Hill, Chase, Lamb, St. Brown. To me, I would rather have those other 3 guys for the safety they provide going into the season. Just because the contract stuff just scares me, man.
So just remember, so this could change if contracts, right? All of a sudden, everything's all better and good. We could move him towards the top. I do struggle. I'm a little more with Justin. I struggle with taking him 1, 2. Remember, you're trying to get your return value with that draft capital. So if you're taking him 1 or 2, can I get that back with the situation that's going on? No, I don't. I will tell you, I would rather have, instead of Lamb, give me Hall, give me Bijan, right? And give me those other 3 wide receivers. And then now all of a sudden he's pushed back to 6. If he falls to 6, 7, yeah, I'll take him then. But I don't want him anywhere near the front of that draft. So moving on to our one of our favorite players, Chase, who had a little bit of down last year. That offense wasn't as tuned up as it was, last year was what we've come to be expected out from them. So Chance, let's talk about Chase and what we're thinking is going to be better this year.
Yeah, and I think the Ja'Marr Chase conversation for me is real similar to the T. Higgins conversation. By all accounts, Joe Burrow is looking healthy. Joe Burrow is looking like he is the Joe Burrow from 2022, 2021, where where they were just absolutely thriving in this offense. Ja'Marr Chase also, he finished 5th, 12th, and 13th for position rank from 2021, 22, and 23. He's just an absolute stud of a, like, he is what we all hope Marvin Harrison Jr. turns into. Ja'Marr Chase is that guy. And I think if Joe Burrow is as healthy as they say he is, Ja'Marr Chase could easily finish wide receiver 1 to me. Like, I think he is one of those guys that could have the return on value in an offense that's the same, with the quarterback who is going to throw the ball that he has a great connection with. I just love that situation. And I think it'd be really hard, barring injury to either Ja'Marr Chase or Joe Burrow, to see a derailment in Ja'Marr Chase's return to excellence.
Justin?
I think we're all just waiting for his wide receiver 1 season. Like, his 1,800 yards, 15 touchdowns. I think we're just waiting for it. I hope it's a win, not a if. He's a great player.
That's a great.
I
love that.
And I will add that, we said Burrow's healthy. I do like their running game a little bit better, and they did improve that O-line just slightly. So I think big things. I smell revenge tour for Mr. Chase. So it's coming. Finally, our number one guy, Tyreek Hill. It's hard to, it just seems like the guy you need to pick right now.
Yeah.
The guy is just, what else do you do? The guy is just makes things happen. You can't hate on him anymore. It's like, I know he's older, but geez, you just got to do it. Justin, let's start with you.
It just feels like he's the most consistent finisher of the top three. He just does it every year, and it's just like, oh yeah, Tyreek Hill is good. So that's all I got.
I just wanted to look because I'm a big fan of like where they finish and whatnot. And I had, obviously Tyreek Hill is good, and I had to watch him a ton in Kansas City. And there's nothing there. The only thing I hate more than the Tyreek Hill peace symbol that he got in trouble for all the time is the sound of Patrick Mahomes' voice. Right, like those are the other things I hate the most in the whole NFL ever. Okay, but I looked back at his finishes. And since 2017, do you know how many times he's finished outside of the top 4 in wide receiver rankings?
Maybe twice.
Twice.
Yeah.
One of them was 6, and one of them was 29th when he missed 5 games. Right. His finishes for the last bunch of years: wide receiver 2, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 6, wide receiver 2, 29, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 4. The dude is Tyreek the Freak. There's absolutely no reason why you should take him 101. Take him 101. You don't have to worry about the injury risk to McCaffrey. Tyreek Hill's going to get fed. He is such a sure bet at 101 or 102. I don't know why people pass on him.
Yep. So I have a speculation of why people pass is because of the playoffs. They struggle producing in the playoffs, and that's the last thing they see before the next year. So it's like, but when you go look at this whole regular season, you're like, man, why didn't I draft that guy? Why didn't I draft that guy the whole time? So yeah, go get him at 101. Well, everybody, gosh, that's our wide receiver rankings. We are super excited to bring that to you. We got some more stuff coming up. We have tight end rankings just right around the corner. We're going to do another mock draft, right? So there's some stuff going on in the tight end world that we need to talk about, but mock drafts are coming. And we want you to join us, man. If you're interested in a mock draft with us, leave us a comment. We'll see if we can get you in. It'll be a lot of fun. We use a sleeper for that. Yeah, get in here. It'll be fun. Leave a comment. Make sure you subscribe. Hit that like button. Justin, any final words?
No, I just keep gassing up my Falcons players, and I feel real biased, but I'm really excited for them as an offense this year. So,
Chance.
Yeah, there are guys that we definitely didn't list in that top 24 who will probably be in the top 24. I'm just excited to keep bringing you guys some input on sleepers, on guys that you should draft that we think are going to be really go off this year. So hopefully you guys are dipping into some news, some football news. If not, I'm glad that we get to be that for you. But thanks for tuning in today.
Well, if that's it for tonight. We are out. 208 is out. Have a good night, everybody, and we will see you next time.